Wesley Miller had always been the kind of man who believed in hard work and dedication. Having taken over the family business, a thriving real estate firm, from his father, Wesley immersed himself in the demands of leadership. Long hours, endless meetings, and the constant pressure to stay ahead in the competitive market consumed his days. Yet, despite the chaos of his professional life, Wesley never let his work overshadow the importance of family. His wife, Brittany, had been his anchor, a constant source of love and support throughout their marriage. Every evening, Wesley made it a point to call Brittany, asking about her day, sharing a laugh, or simply expressing how much he missed her. Their bond had always been strong, built on a foundation of trust and shared dreams. However, the recent months had brought an unexpected chill to their relationship. It started subtly, a missed call here, a vague text message there. Brittany had begun spending more time away from home, citing work meetings or dinners with friends as reasons for her absences. At first, Wesley accepted her explanations, convinced that the distance was a temporary phase. But as weeks turned into months, his unease grew. Brittany's once engaging conversations became monosyllabic replies, her warmth replaced by a distant, distracted demeanor. The late-night outings grew more frequent, and the unanswered phone calls became a pattern Wesley could no longer ignore. Friends would mention seeing Brittany around town with someone else, but Wesley brushed off their concerns, refusing to let doubt poison his mind. "She's just busy," he would tell himself, trying to quell the nagging suspicion that something was amiss. After all, Brittany had always been the most loyal and devoted partner. He couldn't imagine her being anything else. One Friday afternoon, the weight of suspicion became too heavy to bear. After an exhausting week filled with back-to-back meetings, Wesley decided to take a half-day off, longing to spend a quiet evening at home with Brittany. As he drove through the familiar streets leading to their house, a sense of anticipation mixed with anxiety filled him. Upon reaching his driveway, Wesley was surprised to see his brother Eric's car parked outside. Eric's presence seemed peculiar, but Wesley dismissed it as a casual visit. Eric had always been the more sociable of the two, often dropping by unannounced. Stepping inside, Wesley was greeted by an eerie silence. The usual hum of the TV or the aroma of Brittany's cooking was absent. His footsteps echoed as he made his way through the hallway, calling out for Brittany. There was no response. Wesley's heart pounded in his chest as he approached the bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and through the crack, he could hear muffled moaning voices. Pushing the door open, Wesley was met with a sight that shattered his world. There was Brittany with no clothes, her expression one of shock and guilt. I was shocked to see her on both knees, satisfying my brother, Eric, wearing a smug grin that turned Wesley's stomach. The room spun as Wesley struggled to comprehend the betrayal unfolding before him. "Wesley," Brittany stammered, scrambling to cover herself with the sheets, her face flushed with shame. "Shut up, bitch. I don't want to hear anything from you," Wesley said. "Hey, loser," Eric sneered, lounging back against the pillows with a look of satisfaction. "Look what your wife is doing to my Johnson. First, I got our family business, then your wife. So get the fuck out now." Eric's words were like a match thrown into a powder keg. Rage surged through Wesley, overpowering the initial shock. He lunged at Eric, fists clenched, ready to make him pay for his treachery. But before he could reach his brother, the wardrobe door burst open, and his father, Alexander, stepped out, a look of disapproval etched across his face. "Enough, Wesley," Alexander commanded, his voice cold and authoritative. "This isn't the time or place for this." The betrayal was deeper than Wesley had imagined. It wasn't just Brittany and Eric. It was a conspiracy woven into the fabric of his family. Wesley staggered back, the weight of betrayal pressing down on him like a suffocating fog. Little did they know that this betrayal would be the catalyst for Wesley's transformation, setting him on a path toward retribution that would change all their lives forever. Wesley stood frozen in the doorway, his mind still reeling from the betrayal he had just witnessed. The smug look on Eric's face was infuriating, but it was nothing compared to the shock of seeing his father, Alexander, emerge from the wardrobe, looking as if he had been privy to a private joke at Wesley's expense. Alexander, a man Wesley had always respected and looked up to, now seemed like a stranger. "Wesley," Alexander said calmly, as if discussing the weather, "there are things you don't understand. This is bigger than you think." The word stung more than any slap. Wesley felt a fire ignite in his chest. "What the hell are you talking about?" he demanded, his voice rising with anger. Alexander sighed, adopting a tone that bordered on patronizing. "I did what I had to for the good of the business. You're too soft, Wesley. Too emotional. You always have been." Wesley clenched his fists, struggling to contain his fury. "You orchestrated this?" he spat, gesturing toward Eric and Brittany, who had remained silent during the confrontation. "Business isn't about feelings," Alexander continued, ignoring his son's outrage. "It's about power, control, and knowing when to make tough decisions. Eric understands that. You don't." Wesley couldn't believe what he was hearing. The man who had taught him everything about integrity and hard work was now justifying a betrayal that ran deeper than Wesley could have imagined. "You think this is tough?" Wesley shouted, finally giving voice to his rage. "Betraying your own son for a conniving snake like Eric? For this circus? You sold me out, and for what? Because I trusted you?" Eric stood up, adjusting his shirt, a smirk still plastered on his face. "Face it, Wesley. You were always Dad's second choice. You were too busy playing the good guy to see what really matters." Wesley's blood boiled. The sense of betrayal, compounded by his father's cold rationale, made him feel as though the ground beneath him was crumbling. Years of dedication, loyalty, and love for his family seemed worthless in light of their deceit. "You've been plotting against me for years, haven't you?" Wesley accused, his voice seething with anger. "All those late-night meetings, the strategic advice, it was all a setup." Alexander's expression remained unchanged. "We needed someone who could handle the business with the ruthlessness it demands. You weren't that person." Wesley's heart pounded in his chest, a mixture of hurt and fury coursing through his veins. The idea that his own family had manipulated him so thoroughly was almost too much to bear. As Wesley turned to leave, Brittany's voice broke through the tension. "Wesley, wait," she pleaded, wrapping the sheets around herself as she stood. Her eyes were filled with tears, yet her voice held a hint of defiance. "You have to understand. You were never around. I felt so alone, and Eric was there. He listened to me." Wesley stopped, his back still turned to her. "Listen to you?" he echoed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "And that's your excuse for sleeping with my brother? For conspiring with him against me?" Brittany's voice wavered as she tried to explain. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't plan any of it. It just happened. I needed someone, and you were always at work." Her words cut deep, but they did nothing to diminish the clarity that had begun to form in Wesley's mind. He turned to face her, his expression hardened. "You think that justifies this? You think that erases what you've done? This isn't just about the cheating, Brittany. It's about betraying everything we built together." She opened her mouth to respond, but Wesley held up a hand, silencing her. "No more excuses. I don't want to hear it. I see now who you truly are, all of you." The resolve in his voice left no room for argument. The betrayal had indeed revealed the true nature of those he had once loved and trusted, but instead of breaking him, it fueled a determination that burned hotter than his initial anger. Wesley turned away from the scene of betrayal, each step towards the door heavy with a mixture of sadness and newfound resolve. The anger he felt had crystallized into a clear purpose, to reclaim his life and take back what was rightfully his. As he walked away, leaving Eric, Brittany, and Alexander behind, he felt the chains of deceit fall away. This was his chance to start anew, free from the toxic influences that had clouded his life for too long. He knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he was ready to face them head-on. The family conspiracy had been a catalyst for his transformation, and he vowed to use the experience to build a future rooted in integrity and genuine relationships. As the door closed behind him, Wesley knew that he was no longer the man he had been. He was stronger, wiser, and ready to fight back against those who had underestimated his resolve. The betrayal had marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, one that he would write on his own terms. The door clicked shut behind Wesley, cutting him off from the toxic scene that had played out moments ago. The crisp evening air hit him with a bracing chill, as if trying to shake him free from the emotional storm within. He paused on the porch, taking a deep breath to steady himself, letting the betrayal and deceit fade into the background. His heart ached, but his mind was clear. He had to move forward, leaving Brittany, Eric, and Alexander behind to revel in their hollow victory. Wesley knew he couldn't afford to react impulsively. He needed to plan his next steps carefully, turning the tides in his favor. The business, the very thing his father claimed he was unfit to manage, was something he had built from the ground up. It was a legacy he was determined to reclaim, not just for himself, but for the employees who depended on him and the clients who trusted him. With every step away from the house, Wesley felt a burden lifting. He had been knocked down, but not defeated. The betrayal had only sharpened his focus, and he was more determined than ever to take back what was rightfully his. The next morning, Wesley sat in his home office, surrounded by files and a network of contacts he had cultivated over the years. These were the people he could trust, colleagues, friends, and mentors who had witnessed his dedication and integrity. He reached out to each of them, setting up meetings to discuss the future of the business. "Wesley, I've got your back," said Linda, an old friend and fellow entrepreneur, over a cup of coffee at their favorite cafe. "I never trusted Eric or Alexander. They always seemed more interested in cutting corners than in building genuine relationships." Wesley nodded, grateful for her unwavering support. "I need your help, Linda. We need to dig deep, find any irregularities in the accounts. If they've been embezzling funds or manipulating the books, I want to know about it." Linda leaned in, her eyes serious. "Consider it done. I'll start looking through the financials and get my team on it. We'll find whatever dirt they've been hiding." As the days passed, Wesley reconnected with more allies, people who had known him long before the betrayal. Each conversation fortified his resolve, providing him with the strength and information he needed to dismantle the conspiracy from within. He realized that reclaiming his business wouldn't just be about removing Eric and Alexander. It would be about restoring the integrity that had been lost under their management. Amidst the chaos, an unexpected ally emerged, Sophia, the family's longtime maid. Sophia had been a quiet, steadfast presence in their household for years, her loyalty to Brittany keeping her silent about the turmoil she had witnessed. Now, with the family torn apart, Sophia felt compelled to reach out to Wesley. One evening, she knocked on the door of Wesley's temporary apartment, her demeanor humble yet resolute. "Mr. Wesley," she began, wringing her hands nervously, "I'm sorry to disturb you, but there's something you need to know." Wesley invited her in, offering her a seat at the small kitchen table. "Sophia, please, tell me what you've seen." Sophia took a deep breath, her eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and determination. "I've seen things, Mr. Wesley, things I couldn't speak of before. Eric and Alexander, they've been using the business for their own gain, siphoning money and making deals under the table." Wesley listened intently, his heart swelling with gratitude for her bravery. "Sophia, thank you for coming forward. This information is crucial. But why tell me now?" Her gaze softened, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "I've always admired you, Mr. Wesley. You've treated everyone with kindness and respect. I stayed silent for Brittany's sake, but I see now that I was wrong. You deserve to know the truth." Moved by her words, Wesley reached out, placing a reassuring hand on hers. "Thank you, Sophia. Your loyalty means a lot to me. With your help, we can bring their schemes to light and restore what they've taken from us." Sophia's information proved invaluable. She provided Wesley with detailed accounts of conversations she had overheard and documents she had seen, further exposing the web of deceit woven by Eric and Alexander. Her insight gave Wesley the final pieces he needed to complete his investigation and strengthen his case. With his network of allies and Sophia's testimony, Wesley felt a renewed sense of purpose. He spent countless nights reviewing evidence, strategizing with his team, and preparing for the legal battle that lay ahead. The betrayal had been devastating, but it had also been transformative, igniting a fire within him that refused to be extinguished. Wesley knew that the path to reclaiming his life and business would not be easy, but he was ready to fight. Armed with the support of those who believed in him and the evidence of his family's treachery, he set his plan in motion, determined to see justice served. As he prepared for the next phase of his journey, Wesley realized that the betrayal, painful as it was, had given him the clarity and strength to rebuild his life on his own terms. And with allies like Sophia by his side, he was confident that he could overcome any obstacle in his way. With a clear plan in mind, Wesley knew he had to gather concrete evidence to bring his family's treachery to light. His determination led him to hire a private investigator named Marcus Langley, a man renowned for his discretion and tenacity. Marcus had a reputation for uncovering hidden truths, and Wesley was confident that he was the right person for the job. "Mr. Miller, I assure you, if there's anything to be found, I'll find it," Marcus promised during their initial meeting, his voice steady and confident. Wesley nodded, his resolve unwavering. "I need proof of everything: embezzlement, under-the-table deals, anything that can show what Eric and Alexander have been doing behind my back." For weeks, Marcus delved into the shadows of the family business, scrutinizing financial records, surveillance footage, and communication logs. He interviewed former employees who had been ousted or sidelined by Eric and Alexander, piecing together a damning picture of corruption and deceit. As Marcus worked tirelessly, Wesley felt a sense of vindication growing within him. Each update from Marcus brought new revelations, each more shocking than the last. Eric had been siphoning funds into offshore accounts, manipulating contracts, and bribing officials to cover up his tracks. Alexander, meanwhile, had been complicit in these actions, prioritizing personal gain over the business's integrity. The evidence was overwhelming. Armed with Marcus's detailed report, Wesley felt the weight of justice on his side. It was time to make his move. The day of the court hearing arrived, and Wesley stood outside the courthouse, taking a moment to steel himself for the confrontation ahead. His mind was clear, his purpose resolute. Today was the day he would reclaim everything that had been stolen from him. Inside the courtroom, the tension was palpable. The gallery was filled with reporters, employees of the Miller real estate firm, and curious onlookers, all eager to witness the drama unfold. Eric and Alexander sat at the defendant's table, their expressions ranging from defiant to nervous. As proceedings began, Wesley's lawyer, Anna Blackwood, presented the meticulously gathered evidence to the court. Financial statements, bank records, and testimonies painted a vivid picture of the betrayal Wesley had suffered. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Anna addressed them with a commanding presence, "what you see before you is not just a case of familial discord. This is a matter of justice for an individual wronged by those he trusted most." Anna's arguments were compelling, each piece of evidence meticulously presented to the court. She pointed out discrepancies in financial reports, highlighted fraudulent transactions, and showcased witness accounts that corroborated Wesley's claims. As the day wore on, it became clear that Eric and Alexander's defense was crumbling. Their lawyers struggled to counter the avalanche of evidence, often resorting to weak excuses and vague denials that did little to sway the jury. Finally, it was Wesley's turn to testify. Taking a deep breath, he faced the courtroom, his voice steady and filled with conviction. "I trusted my family, believed in their support and guidance. But what they did was a betrayal of everything I hold dear. They thought I was weak, but they underestimated my resolve. This isn't just about reclaiming a business, it's about restoring integrity." The jury listened intently, their expressions reflecting a mix of empathy and outrage. As Wesley spoke, he felt a sense of liberation. He was no longer the victim of his family's machinations. He was taking control, shaping his own destiny. The verdict was swift and decisive. The court ruled in favor of Wesley, reinstating him as the rightful owner of the family business. The relief and vindication he felt were overwhelming. Justice had been served. Outside the courthouse, the media frenzy was in full swing. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and headlines about the Miller family scandal dominated the news. The courtroom drama had captured the public's attention, turning the once respected Miller name into a cautionary tale of greed and betrayal. Eric and Alexander's reputations lay in ruins. Former allies distanced themselves, and the business community shunned them. Their fall from grace was swift and merciless, a fitting consequence for their treachery. Brittany, too, faced the consequences of her choices. Her attempts to reconcile with Wesley were met with cold indifference. She found herself ostracized, her once comfortable life crumbling around her. Wesley, on the other hand, emerged from the ordeal stronger and more resolute than ever. He had reclaimed his business, restored its integrity, and revealed the truth about those who had sought to destroy him. His name was now synonymous with resilience and justice. As the dust settled, Wesley reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. The betrayal had been painful, but it had also been a catalyst for change. It had revealed the true nature of those around him and had strengthened his resolve to live a life guided by integrity and honesty. With the business back in his hands, Wesley looked toward the future with optimism. He was determined to rebuild, to create a legacy that reflected his values and aspirations. He knew that challenges lay ahead, but he was ready to face them with the support of his loyal friends and allies. As he walked away from the courthouse, the sun shining brightly on his face, Wesley felt a sense of peace. He had weathered the storm and emerged stronger for it. The counterattack had been a success, and now it was time to embrace the new beginning that lay ahead. Wesley stood in the spacious, sunlit office of Miller Real Estate, surveying the bustling activity around him. The energy was electric, a far cry from the tense and deceit-laden atmosphere that had previously plagued the company. With the business back in his control, Wesley was determined to restore its reputation and build a legacy of integrity and trust. The task was daunting, but Wesley approached it with a sense of purpose and optimism. He spent countless hours meeting with employees, reassuring them of the company's new direction. His open-door policy encouraged honest conversations, and his genuine interest in their well-being fostered a renewed sense of loyalty among the staff. "Mr. Miller, it's good to have you back," said Karen, the office manager, as she brought him a stack of reports. "We all knew things would turn around under your leadership." Wesley smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the support of his team. "Thank you, Karen. We're going to make this company better than it's ever been." One of Wesley's first actions was to address the clients who had been affected by the previous mismanagement. He personally called each one, explaining the changes and assuring them of his commitment to transparency and ethical practices. Many of them expressed relief and gratitude, eager to continue working with a company they had trusted for years. "Mr. Miller, your honesty means a lot to us," said Mr. Thompson, a longtime client, over the phone. "We're happy to have you back at the helm." Rebuilding the company's reputation required more than just words. Wesley implemented new policies to ensure accountability and transparency, hiring a team of auditors to regularly review the company's finances and operations. He also invested in community projects, reinforcing the company's commitment to making a positive impact beyond its bottom line. As the weeks turned into months, the hard work paid off. The company's reputation was restored, and its success began to attract new clients and opportunities. Wesley's determination and integrity had not only saved the business but had also set it on a path to greater achievements. Amidst the whirlwind of rebuilding, Wesley found solace and support in an unexpected place. Sophia. Her unwavering loyalty and kindness had been a beacon of light during his darkest moments, and their friendship had deepened into something more profound. Sophia's gentle presence was a constant source of comfort, her insights and intuition guiding Wesley through difficult decisions. Her laughter brought warmth to his heart, and her strength inspired him to keep moving forward. One evening, as they sat together on Wesley's balcony overlooking the city, he turned to her, his expression earnest. "Sophia, I don't know what I would have done without you. You've been my rock through all of this." Sophia smiled, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "You've been through so much, Wesley, and yet you've come out stronger. I'm just glad I could be here for you." Wesley reached for her hand, feeling the warmth and reassurance of her touch. "You've been more than just a support, Sophia. You've become a part of my life, a part one can't imagine being without." Her heart skipped a beat at his words, and she squeezed his hand gently. "I feel the same way, Wesley. I've always admired you, but now I love you." Wesley's heart swelled with happiness, the past heartaches dissolving into a distant memory. He leaned in, kissing her softly, sealing their bond with the promise of a new beginning. Their relationship was built on trust and mutual respect, a foundation that promised a future filled with love and happiness. The day of Wesley and Sophia's wedding dawned bright and clear, the sky a brilliant shade of blue. The ceremony was a small, intimate affair held in a charming garden surrounded by friends, colleagues, and loved ones who had supported Wesley through his journey. As Sophia walked down the aisle, radiant in a simple yet elegant gown, Wesley felt a surge of emotion. Her beauty took his breath away, but it was her spirit, her courage, and her love that filled his heart with joy. The vows they exchanged were heartfelt and sincere, a testament to their shared journey and the love that had grown from friendship and adversity. Sophia, you've taught me what it means to truly love and be loved. I promise to stand by you, to cherish and support you, through whatever life may bring. Tears glistened in Sophia's eyes as she replied, her voice filled with love. Wesley, you've shown me the power of resilience and integrity. I vow to be your partner, your confidant, and your friend, now and forever. As they sealed their vows with a kiss, the guests erupted into applause, celebrating the union of two souls who had found strength and happiness in each other. The wedding was more than just a ceremony. It was a symbol of a fresh start, a new chapter in a life marked by love and promise. The reception that followed was a joyous affair, filled with laughter, music, and dancing. Friends and family shared stories and memories, toasting to the bright future that awaited Wesley and Sophia. Here's to new beginnings, said Linda, raising her glass with a smile. May your lives be filled with love and success. Wesley looked around at the faces of those who had stood by him, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. He knew that the road ahead would have its challenges, but with Sophia by his side and a renewed purpose in his heart, he was ready to face anything. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the celebration, Wesley held Sophia close, feeling the warmth of her embrace. Together, they had overcome the shadows of the past, and together they would embrace the promise of the future. Their journey had been one of betrayal and redemption, heartache and healing, but in the end, it was a journey that had led them to each other, to love, and to a life filled with hope and joy. Wesley stood at the window of his office, looking out at the city skyline as the sun dipped below the horizon. In this moment of quiet reflection, Wesley pondered the tumultuous journey he had traversed over the past year. Across town, Eric and Alexander sat in a dimly lit apartment, the remnants of their once grand lives reduced to bare essentials. The luxury and comfort they had once taken for granted were gone, leaving only the harsh reality of their downfall. Eric stared blankly at the television, its muted screen flickering with news of economic developments and business triumphs he was no longer a part of. The humiliation of the courtroom defeat, coupled with the loss of the family business, had left him a shell of his former self. "Eric, we need to figure out what's next," Alexander muttered, his voice tinged with desperation. "We can't keep living like this." Eric remained silent, the weight of his choices pressing heavily upon him. He had once been the golden child, the favored son, but his greed and ambition had led him astray. Now, he was left with nothing but the bitter taste of regret. Their fall from grace had been swift and unforgiving. The financial ruin was compounded by social ostracism, as friends and associates distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with their tarnished reputations. The world they had manipulated and deceived had turned its back on them, leaving them to face the consequences of their actions alone. Brittany sat at a small cafe, nursing a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. She watched the bustling crowd pass by, each person seemingly absorbed in their own lives, their own stories. Her thoughts drifted back to Wesley, the man she had betrayed in her pursuit of something she now realized was fleeting and shallow. The regret gnawed at her, a constant reminder of the grave mistake she had made. Wesley had been a good husband, a kind and loyal partner, and she had thrown it all away for a momentary illusion of excitement with Eric. Now, with nothing but her regrets for company, she knew she had lost something irreplaceable. Determined to make amends, Brittany reached out to Wesley, requesting a meeting. They sat across from each other at a quiet restaurant, the air between them heavy with unspoken words. "Wesley, I'm so sorry for everything," Brittany began, her voice trembling with sincerity. "I made a terrible mistake, and I regret hurting you. Wesley met her gaze, his expression calm and composed. Brittany, I've moved on. What happened between us is in the past. I wish you well, but I'm building a new life with Sophia now. His words were firm, leaving no room for reconciliation. Brittany felt a pang of sadness, but she also understood. She had made her choices, and now she had to live with the consequences. As she watched Wesley walk away, she realized that her regret would be a constant companion, a reminder of what she had lost. Wesley had rebuilt his business and his life, with Sophia by his side. Wesley looked forward to the future with hope and optimism. They were building a life together, rooted in love and trust, and he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together.